Today, dozens of Disney employees walked off the job.
Out here just in support of all of our employees and their families.
An act of protest over Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. If signed into law, it would ban classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in Florida in kindergarten through third grade. But a new national poll on the issue shows 51% of those responding support the provision, with 35% against.
Once this bill's signed, it's basically forcing people that are LGBT back into the closet.
Now, inside the happiest place on earth, growing frustration over Disney CEO Bob Chapek's handling of the legislation, with critics saying he did not do enough to speak out against it. At the time, he explained.
Now, we were opposed to the bill from the outset, but we chose not to take a public position on it because we thought we could be more effective working behind the scenes.
That set off a firestorm, with some launching a website and Twitter page calling for a company-wide walkout. It's launched the House of Mouse into damage control. Today, a slew of statements from Disney properties, ESPN, Hulu, Disney Plus, all reaffirming their commitment to LGBTQ+.
What the hell?
Oh my God.
Empty.
The whole Disney thing, it all started, and I covered this a little bit in my video on the parental rights and education bill in Florida, but I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about it already. The Disney Corporation at first took a stance where they weren't going to get involved. They were like, hey, we're just going to kind of stay in the middle on this. It is what it is. But that made a lot of people mad. And the Twitter mob came, and Disney employees in Florida and California got upset. So, of course, Disney caved. They gave in because they care about people on Twitter and, I guess a few maybe not so positive headlines about them. And since then, so many different things have come out about Disney's future and their agenda. However, there was a journalist by the name of Christopher Ruffo or whatever, and he got his hands on an all hands meeting between some Disney executives and people over there with their whole Reimagine Tomorrow campaign. Now, what is Reimagine Tomorrow? Reimagine Tomorrow is this thing Disney's doing, and their mission statement thing. It's like it says, at Disney, inclusion is for everyone. Reimagine Tomorrow is our way of amplifying unrepresented voices and untold stories, as well as championing the importance of accurate representation in media and entertainment, because we are all greater than a single story, and we all deserve to feel seen, heard, and understood. And their intentions are to achieving our goal of a Reimagine Tomorrow demands transparency and accountability from our culture to our content and experiences. We are working together to translate our intentions into actions. The more customers worldwide are reflected in our workforce, the better we are able to serve them authentically. When our employees perceive that Disney culture supports their professional development and advancement, they can be authentic, contribute freely, and take pride in our company to make progress that ensures our workforce reflects the market. Now, surface level, that sounds pretty good. It's like, oh, great inclusion, but that's not necessarily what they mean. But this is from the Blaze News media. Journalist Chris Ruffo obtained a video from an inside all-hands meeting in which Disney employees discussed Florida's parental rights and education bill, which protects students in kindergarten through third grade from receiving classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity. Disney has expressed outrage over the bill, which Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law on Monday. This is from like a week or two ago. But yeah, it guys, it gets really, really funny. This gets really, really crazy, but we're gonna watch it here. So let's get right into
it. But the context is also who is pushing it, what their record is, and what the history is in Florida. You can go back to the 50s, to the Johns Committee, where the legislature was actively put together a task force whose whole job was to root out civil rights workers and any homosexuals in the university system. They destroyed lives. Literally, people committed suicide behind the relentless attack. And then you have Anita Bryant, and many of us are of an age to remember Anita Bryant's Save Our Children campaign, which was premised on the same ideas that undergird this bill. And because of her campaign that equated being gay with being a child predator, she was able to pass a ban on gay people being able to adopt, a marriage ban, and then she took that nationwide. And so when we react to this, a lot of us are reacting from the pain we experienced of being isolated and stigmatized in school. But we're also reacting from the reality that when they can erase you, when they can criminalize your existence, when they can demonize who you are, the next step is to criminalize you and take your kids. And we're already seeing that in Texas. So the slippery slope between these ugly messages, emanating from legislative leaders in our state, and then amplified by our governor, whose spokesperson immediately began calling everyone who opposed this bill groomers, AKA pedophiles.
I'm here as a mother.
All right, so just from the rip, and this, I feel like I've said this multiple times, not just in regards to the parental rights and education bill. Again, I will not call it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, because that's not what it is. That has, and this shows me that they haven't read it. I read it. It's like 7 pages long. It's very clear about what it says. It says very specific age groups. This doesn't, no one's being targeted. Get this, even heterosexuals. You cannot discuss sexual identity and gender identity in school. That's the thing that it says. The fact that there are kindergarten teachers, kindergarten teachers arguing and pressing against this, I feel like is odd. That's weird. It would be weird even if they were straight and they had a problem with it. It's not, no one is targeting like LGBTQ people specifically. That's not what this is about. It really isn't. And the fact that that keeps getting brought up into the discussion, like, I feel like that's a red flag right there. You have people in Florida who are educators who are like, oh, well, I'm just going to quit and move from Florida because of this. Don't you care about teaching? Don't you care about the children? Why is it such a big deal that you can't discuss your gender identity and sexual orientation with your students? K through 3rd grade. This isn't about demonizing a particular group of people. When I was in school, you didn't, like, sometimes they would send like a letter home or whatever, or let parents know like, oh, hey, once you hit like 4th, 5th grade, oh, we're going to do like sex ed and stuff like that. Is that all right? Same thing. The problem is a lot of this stuff has been forced, and a lot of people go to college. They learn all these identity politics and stuff. And then they become teachers, and then they feel like they have to be activists. So they take that stuff into the classroom and implant it into the kids. And I'm not going to say it's indoctrination, necessarily a conscious indoctrination, but that's what it is. And as you're going to hear about what Disney's trying to do now with like their over-representation, because that's what it is. That's what it's going for. It's an over-representation. And again, this isn't just about LGBTQ specifically, but that's where it started. And they do get into that. It's about all marginalized groups, as we saw in the mission statement for Reimagine Tomorrow. This is about grown adults. It's grown adults using kids to validate their sexuality. That's what this is. And it's messed up. Let's continue.
Mother of 2 queer children, actually, one transgender child, and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me, because I have heard so much from so many of my colleagues over the course of the last couple of weeks, in open forums and through emails and phone conversations. And I feel a responsibility to.
Notice she said that she has 2 queer children, one pansexual and one transsexual. Now, I don't know if she's talking about she has grown children. However, if she has like minors, how do you have a trans child? Children, I don't care what anyone says, children don't think about this stuff. Teenagers, maybe. But that's still a minor. And anyone who's been a teenager already knows half of the stuff that you're thinking about that's on your mind is like, you need to just forget about that. Seriously. That should be a red flag right there. Pansexual, is it? First off, pansexual is just it's like, it's such a cry for attention. Like the whole pansexual thing. If you know what a pansexual is, basically you're bi. That's basically all that means. It's just to give more names to stuff. Let's continue.
Speak, not just for myself, but for them. To all of us. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, you know, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized.
What? That can't be true. This is Disney we're talking about. Disney is classically conservative. My man Walt was a squealer. He used to tell, like, on his union workers, like, hey, I got a communist here. Hey, this guy's a communist. This guy's a communist. You were shocked. If you can name me in the comments, if you can name me 5 gay Disney leads, like openly gay 5 Disney leads, like fictional Disney leads, I will give you something. I don't know what. Because, like, you can't do it. She's so full of crap. Like, oh, no, we have to have. You don't, though. Cut the crap. I'm not saying that's a problem or not a problem. Like, it's like, come on. That is such a lie.
Oh, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters, and not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me. And I can tell you, it's something that I feel perhaps had this moment not happened, I as a leader and me as my colleagues would not have focused on. And going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be. And I hope this is a moment where, shoot, the 50% of the tears, sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go back.
Last summer, we removed.
Now, I will give her this. Credit where credit is due. I like that she said, oh, like, just have, these different characters that represent different groups, but it not be, quote, gay stories. But let's keep it a bean here. How else? 1, why would it matter? 2, like, and she's saying 50%. So 50%, get this, in regards to the LGBTQ, like, population percentage wise, 50%, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is an overrepresentation. That still doesn't make sense. Not that long ago, I was talking to my brother, and he had brought up something to me. He was like, I'm not against gay people, but, it's really weird that, like, almost every single show or any movie that I see, there's always, like, at least 1 or 2 gay, people in the gaggle of, like, whatever cast it is. And those numbers just don't make sense. I know a lot of people like this sounds messed up, and I've said this multiple times before. And I remember one of the earliest streams I ever did, I had said this, and like everyone was like, gasp. But I was like, there's not enough LGBTQ people to necessarily justify this like over aggressive push for this representation. There just isn't. That's not crazy. That's not mean. No one's not validating you, which is crazy. You know what I find interesting about like LGBTQ activists or any kind of activists specifically, but mainly LGBTQ activists? It's like you want validation from people who you claim don't even like you, who you don't like. But pride is the thing, right? It's all about pride. You don't have pride, because you need validation from outside sources to validate you. That's why there's this push in media. That's why you're trying to push it on the kids, because you are uncomfortable with yourself for whatever reason. You're uncomfortable with yourself, so you need validation from outside sources. You need validation from media. You need children to be like, yeah, it's okay, so that you can validate yourself. If someone didn't like me, or if I suspected that someone had a problem with me, I wouldn't care about what they think about me. That makes the most sense. It's just weird. So yeah, 50% you want 50% of it to be LGBTQ representative. That's an overrepresentation, because they only make up 3 to 4% of the population.
All of the gendered greetings in relationship to our life skills. So we no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We've provided training for all of our cast members in relationship to that. So now they know it's hello everyone or hello friends. We are in the process of changing over those recorded messages. And so many of you are probably familiar when we brought the fireworks back to the Magic Kingdom. We no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we say dreamers of all ages. And so I love the fact that it's opened up the creativity, the opportunity for our cast members to look at that. We have our cast members working with merchandise, working with food and beverage, working with all of our guest facing areas where perhaps, we want to create that magical moment with our cast members, with our guests. And we don't want to just assume because someone might be in our interpretation, maybe presenting as female, that they may not want to be called princess. So let's think differently about how do we really engage with our guests in a meaningful and inclusive way that makes it magical and memorable for everyone.
I love.
And here's the thing. That's cute that they want to do that. Dreamers of all ages. If you saw the description, I actually kind of mocked that there. It won't end, Disney. You fools. It won't end. They're going to find something to be upset about. These fringe activist types, that's not going to be enough. Soon, like, are they going to have to get rid of like princess and princes soon too? That's pretty gender specific. It's not going to end. What are they going to do about the bathroom situation? This isn't going to end. Crazy activists, and get this, I'm not saying that this is all LGBTQ plus people. I'm not saying that it's all minorities, because it really isn't. I would argue that it's a minority of these different marginalized groups, right? These crazy activist types. I don't think it's all. It's oh my goodness. It just doesn't. It will never end. It will never end. It'll never be enough for the mob. If the majority sees things one way or behave a certain way, and a very tiny minority behaves and acts a certain way, then yeah, that's the definition of normal. That means that it's normal. So sadly, if you fall into the LGBTQ umbrella, it's technically, by the definition, it's not normal. I think recognition of that will find peace. You don't need if you want to continue to live a certain way, the good Lord gave us a choice. Doesn't mean there won't be consequences for said choice, but you have a choice. Getting validation and having everyone else accept it as normal shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't. Let's continue.
Disney's content. I grew up watching, all of the classics. They have been a huge, informative part of my life. But at the same time, I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you hear whispers. I'd heard things like, oh, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of Proud Family Disney TVA. The showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. And so
my not at all secret gay agenda. So you're admitting that you have an agenda. And get this, any agenda, I don't care what side you're on, is wrong. Because it's propaganda. My not so at all secret gay agenda. And this is okay. She can just say this. She could just say it. It's okay because no one's going to challenge her. No one's going to be like, hey, because then they're going to get labeled a homophobe or a transphobe. My not at all secret gay agenda. And you know what? I almost did a video on the Proud Family. I watched the first 2 episodes of the new one. I was so excited. I love the Proud Family. I was so excited that it was coming back. And when I heard about some of the changes, I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Not the Proud Family. But it only made sense. You get this. The only reason they brought back the Proud Family is because it was one of their few properties with a majority Black cast. That's the only reason why they decided to breathe new life into it. They're doing the remake reboot thing, and they want to be more inclusive and representative. So that's the only reason why they brought it back. But when I first heard about it, I knew that. But I didn't care so much because I love that show. And I'm like, oh, a lot of the same people that worked on it are coming back. Cool. I could do a few more episodes of this, especially when I saw the animation and the redesigns. I thought it was great. Now, I watched the first episode. Wasn't that bad. Same tone as the original show. The characters all act like themselves. However, there is some differences. And anyone who's watched the new reboot of the Proud Family, you know it very well. And when I say it's in your face, it is in your face. It's subtle in your face, but it is in your face. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to get into a Proud Family tangent because that really broke my heart about, that whole thing. But yeah.
I feel like I felt like it was, maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess something must have happened in the last, they were turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that momentum that I felt, that sense of, I don't have to be afraid to let's have these 2 characters kiss. Let's in the background, I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm Proud Family. But I just was no one would stop me and no one was trying to stop me.
Yeah.
Guys, you're hearing it right here. No one would stop me. And again, this wasn't a public thing. This was a leak or whatever. This was among Disney executives, among Disney employees, wherever I could add queerness. There is an agenda. And I don't think it's in the forefront of these people's heads. I mean, she just said it. Oh, I don't want to assume her gender. She just said it to you. Wherever she could add queerness, she was doing it. I'm not, and some would argue oh, well, of course heterosexuals don't feel that way because they have everything. But it was never in me as a heterosexual male to want to push that on people. And maybe it's because I have overrepresentation as a Black guy, right? In America, I never felt not represented. I didn't know I wasn't represented until people started telling me that I wasn't. Growing up, I had plenty of representation. Some of the greatest sitcoms ever are majority black cast. The Fresh Prince, The Cosby Show, Living Single, for those who know what that is. Awesome show. Family Matters. Like, come on. Like, I had representation. And I related to characters in movies and shows, not because of the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I related to the character things. There were plenty of characters that looked like me and stuff. There were plenty of characters that I could relate to on an emotional level. Disney did the same thing with Star Wars, where they were telling us like, oh, Star Wars is very problematic. It's sexist and racist. How? Some of the best characters in the Star Wars were some of the ladies. Padme, you know, Anakin Scott, Darth Vader's baby mama. She was hardcore, man. Same with Princess Leia. Hardcore. No black representation. Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams, smooth. Billy D was supposed to be Two-Face. For anyone that remembers the 89, Michael Keaton was my Batman growing up. So maybe I'm telling on my age. Yeah, I'm a little older than I look. Billy D was supposed to be Two-Face, and then they changed it. But when Tim Burton cast Billy D as Harvey Dent, he wasn't like, oh, we need representation. He was just like, oh, because Billy D is awesome. You feel me? Like, it wasn't about, now we see a race swapped character. We got to be like, why they do that? This is weird. It's getting weird. Underrepresented. Like, come on now.
I've had the privilege of working with the Moon Girl team for the last 2 years, and they've been really open to exploring queer stories. And I'm on the production side. Part of the work that I feel like I can put in is making sure that we take place in modern day New York. So making sure that that's like an accurate reflection of New York. So I put together like a tracker of our background characters to make sure that we have like the full breadth of expression. And we got into a very similar conversation, Carrie, of like, oh, all of our like gender nonconforming characters are in the background. And so it's not just a numbers game of how many LGBTQ plus characters you have. We got the further, the more centered a story is on a character, the more nuanced you get to get into their story. And especially with like trans characters, you can't see if someone is trans. There's not one way to look trans. And so kind of the only way to have these like canonical trans characters, canonical asexual characters, canonical bisexual characters is to give them stories where they can like be their whole selves.
So my mans are late. I don't want to assume because again, yeah, there's, as they just said, there's no way to know if someone's trans or not. I'm not gonna lie with that individual. I can't tell. Could just be a really effeminate man. Could be a trans guy. I don't know. My point is here. Yeah, you can't know. When it comes to trans characters, yeah, them being trans, because remember, I've noticed this about LGBTQ people in my life. Not every single person, but a majority of people in the LGBTQ, they make their sexuality and their gender identity, especially if it's the opposite of how they were born, their entire self. It becomes everything about them. And that's what Disney's trying to push, because they know that. And people at Disney, like, these are obviously people who, like the one lady, she has children who fall into this lifestyle. I would argue the individual we just listened to falls into that lifestyle. The black young lady who worked on The Proud Family, talked about she was adding queerness wherever she could. These are people that fall under that. So they want to push because again, if you live an alternative lifestyle like these people do, or how some of their loved ones do, in order to make it okay, you have to get everyone to see it and believe it as okay. So again, that's why I said it's adults trying to validate their sexuality, through children. because regardless, because Disney does a whole bunch of things that aren't necessarily just children centered. You know, Disney owns ABC, they own ESPN, Hulu. So like not all of their content. So like when they're saying everything, I'm sure they mean like these other platforms as well that don't necessarily cater definitely to children, but they're mostly like Disney mainly their main audience is children. That needs to be taken into consideration. Bob Chapek. Oh, my man's. Poor guy. Seriously, like when I say like he caved to the mob. That's all that this is. He completely caved. He gave in, and we're gonna watch that as well. I'm gonna show it to you, but it's pathetic and it's sad because Disney ain't so perfect there. Disney is not so perfect. If you want to know about like, first off, Disney is one of the largest corporations in the entire world. They have parks and properties all over the world. And anyone who knows, and this is for most, especially movie studios and stuff like that, they are all up under China's butt, which is funny because China, this gay stuff will not fly in China. It will not. Disney one time got caught lightening the skin of black characters on movie posters over in China, and they were put under fire for it. Also, recently, this is like in the past 2 weeks when all this stuff has been going on, Disney announced that they will be expanding their networking and properties and locations and stuff to Middle Eastern countries where it's illegal. They find out you're gay in the Middle East, they'll push you off a 2-story building. So if Disney really cared about these marginalized groups, why would they distribute content and things over there? Because Disney's full of crap. This is for money. And what's funny is this is ultimately going to hurt Disney very, very badly financially. Very badly financially. And a lot of Disney employees are mad or whatever, but turns out like Disney employees in California, this is before all this bill stuff was going on down in Florida. But a lot of Disney employees, apparently Disney was already planning on building a campus in Florida for some of its employees for something or other. And a lot of employees in California didn't want to move there because they didn't want to move there. They didn't want to move from where they were for their job. I think this Florida thing happened just in time. And with the whole identity politics thing and like Disney getting involved in it now and kind of being in this place where they're between a rock and a hard place, the current CEO, Bob Chapek, wanted to be kind of like just in the middle, which Disney for the longest time, even though they probably most likely lean more conservative and catered to more conservative views, if I'm honest, that's kind of the safer bet. They stayed in the middle. They stayed out of things. But the CEO before, Bob Iger, he's the guy that kind of brought in all this identity politics and diversity stuff. And rumor is that he did that because he wants to curry favor with the Democratic left because he wants to run for president. And now Bob Chapek, the current CEO and chairman, now he's looking like the bad guy. And if I didn't know any better, I think it's because they're trying to get him out of there because Bob Chapek was also known for doing a lot of cutbacks money-wise. So all kinds of Disney employees from the top to the bottom were upset about the money situation. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. In this story from The Blaze says conservative employees at Disney say that the company's activism on behalf of left-wing causes and the increasingly aggressive demands of progressive employees have fostered an environment of fear in which people with different opinions have become isolated and even bullied for their views. So conservative Disney employees, and I read another story which said Christian and conservative, pretty much if you're any kind of religious, working at Disney, it's an uncomfortable place to be now because now it looks like you're, what do they call it, a bigot, a Nazi? It goes on to say that in an open letter published on Monday and first reported by Daily Wire, an anonymous employees at Walt Disney Company warned that by embracing a political agenda, the company is creating an exclusive an exclusive workplace and will alienate customers who do not agree with the left. And the employees also said that Disney has come to be an increasingly uncomfortable place to work for those whose political and religious views are not explicitly progressive. So Disney's all for inclusion. Everyone's welcome to the party, right? Everyone's welcome. Except if you lean a little more right, except if you're conservative, except if you're religious. I think that that's messed up. Let's look at this story from real quick. I'm definitely going to get into the Bob Chapek thing, but a few more things that came out beforehand. This is from Fox News. And again, guys, I already know about Fox News, but the guy they had on, I thought this was interesting. An employee at Disney who's also running for office in Florida. Let's check it out.
At the Walt Disney Company. Jose, are you concerned first and foremost about your job security by speaking out here tonight?
Honestly, no, it's no secret here in Central Florida that I'm running for Congress, that I'm a Disney worker and I'm a strong conservative. To be honest with you, I'm not concerned about my job because, I think if I were to get fired for my views, I think it would send a wrong message to conservatives, that conservatives would not be welcome at Disney. I know that, right now, it seems like there's a misconception. This is what I tell people. There's a misconception out there that everyone at Disney is just raging liberals. And that I think that could not be farther from the truth. From my perspective as a candidate running for Congress, I have tons of people that work for the Walt Disney Company that reach out to me daily on social media.
Someone who is a traditional conservative, social conservative, serious Christian, or frankly, any other faith, is now being told that Disney's purpose, political purpose, is to ensure that kindergartners to third grade are taught about sexual orientation. That is the hill that Disney wants to die on after making billions off of families who are traditionalist.
I think they're making a terrible miscalculation that, ultimately will be bad for business. Their statement says this about the bill that Ron DeSantis passed. They said, our goal as a company is for the law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down by the courts. And, in the left, they talk about democracy after this election. And so what about our democracy right now? The people of Florida, a lot of Disney cast members voted for our state legislature. These are duly elected members of the Florida House of Representatives and the Florida Senate who passed this bill, sent it to the governor, and thank God our governor has the backbone to stand up to companies like mine, Disney, and pass this bill and stand with the people of Florida, stand with the parents, and protect our children.
I guess Disney can cobble together their income from non-traditional Americans, but that's going to be a heavy lift. Now, a new poll is saying that a majority of Florida Democrats support its new parental rights bill. So Democrats support the parental rights bill. The numbers are huge. Again, Disney going with the far left extremists, which I can't imagine what Walt Disney would think today.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the small minority within the Walt Disney Company that's part of the LGBT community are screaming the loudest. They're being the loudest. They're being the most vocal. So we need conservatives like me here. I'm as a candidate. I'll be as loud as I can, telling people that we need to stand up for our conservative values, and I'll be doing the same in Congress.
The message to traditional Americans is you're not welcome here. That's the message Disney is sending out. I'm going to say it very clearly tonight. Everyone's walking around this issue. They do not think that traditional Americans should have a seat at the table or, frankly, even be on corporate boards.
Disney employee's right. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, guys. So it's the loud minority, and Disney's bending to that. They're bending to it. And, about them saying publicly, oh, we're going to do everything in our power to oppose the bill in Florida. Ron DeSantis came out and said, the governor in Florida, that he has heard or gotten no call from anyone in California in regards to this. This is all for the public. Disney is full of crap, guys. They're full of it. Listen to this very pathetic, sad apology from Bob Chapek, the Disney CEO.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for this very important session. By now, I hope you've all read my most recent note, in which I pledged to be a better ally for the LGBTQ plus community.
He's so
Apologize for not
reading
being
a
the
script.
ally that you needed me to be, and committed to ensuring that our company lives up to its values.
If your company was living up to its values, you would stop worrying about China and you wouldn't be expanding to countries in the Middle East based off of their standards, based off of what he's saying right now is their standards. They wouldn't be expanding to the Middle East and they would stop their dealings with China. So, yeah.
I meant every word, and that's what we're here to talk about today. I know that we've got work to do, and that work starts with listening. I'm glad the company will hear from today's panel of LGBTQ plus employees, and I hope that you are as impacted as I've been by the voices that I've heard over the past few weeks. I've read many emails that have been sent, spoken with LGBTQ plus employees and their allies, met with advocacy groups, and convened my own leadership team. And I have been taken by the honesty, the openness, and the urgency of their stories. I want you to know that your words have made a real impact on me. I understand that we've made mistakes and the pain that those mistakes have caused. And I know that our silence wasn't just about the bill in Florida, but about every time an individual or institution that should have stood up for this community did not. I and the leadership team are determined to use this moment as a catalyst for more meaningful and lasting change. We've heard many suggestions on how to do that, and we are working to move quickly. I want to thank the LGBTQIA Plus Advisory Council, their allies, and everyone else who has submitted ideas on how we can take action. I am convening a meeting with all my direct reports and representatives of the Advisory Council to discuss the thoughtful suggestions that have been made. But we know the moment requires urgency and words are not enough. So we are taking some actions right now.
Like, first, as I said a second ago, that was so totally like scripted. Like he was definitely like reading off a teleprompter, which is fine. I can dig writing things down to gather your thoughts. You know, I got some notes right here too. Did that seem genuine? Again, if you really cared, you wouldn't be expanding to the Middle East. You wouldn't be conforming to whatever China tells you to do, which is all they do. That's all they do is, you know, pander to China. It's really ridiculous and it's sad. I got one more thing here. There was an essay that a Disney employee wrote. He did it anonymously. He used the pen name Ethan L. Clay. But I thought it was really interesting, and this kind of goes back to what was said earlier with the other Disney employee who was did the Fox News story. But it says this here. It's incredible that a company, particularly a company whose brand is family-friendly content, would oppose the perfectly reasonable view that sexual topics are not appropriate for 6-year-olds in a public school setting. The bill puts the onus back on the parents rather than public schools to decide how and if these conversations happen. That perspective can be debated, but it is not wrong it is not wrong a priori, and a very large number of Florida voters agree with it. But Disney isn't interested in allowing genuine debate or conversation to occur. It simply wants to satisfy the Democratic left activists who so they stop making trouble and bad headlines for the company. The result is that they parrot the party line, offer craven apologies, and ignore silence and opposition. Guys, I think that this ultimately will be bad for business. I think Disney is only trying to, again, they're trying to avoid bad headlines and a few bad tweets. But And what's crazy is, like, as we saw in that leaked video earlier among their employees, some of these employees actually think that this will be productive. There's been a saying for the past few years, get woke, go broke. I'm telling you, even people that lean liberally and left do not want, they don't want this stuff. They don't. Disney is going to hurt their pockets. There's already talk about a boycott from like platforms, theme parks. If people start boycotting the theme parks, oh, their pockets are really going to hurt. And then they're going to find themselves in a really bad place. Disney, I'm sorry to tell you, Disney executives, queer activists, no one wants it. They don't. The majority of people don't want it. They don't want something forced down their throats. They don't want it pushed on their kids. They just don't. You shouldn't want validation from people who don't like you, or who you think don't like you, or who you don't like. Getting kids to validate your sexuality and your personal choices is sick. Not saying you're a bad person, not saying that you want to do harm, but it is harmful. There is nothing wrong with the Florida bill. There's nothing wrong with it. Not a dang thing. Listen to what CNN had to say in response to a lot of the, I guess, as they put it, conservative backlash in regards to the whole, Disney situation.
The talking point on the right is about protecting kids from the dangers of the Walt Disney Company. Really. Conservative backlash to growing acceptance of gay and transgender people. A conservative fear that traditional beliefs are being trampled on. And there are entire networks that program to this fear, and many politicians that react to it. I spoke with a Disney executive who's caught in the middle of it right now, and they said, Disney's brand for decades has been family-friendly and has been gay-friendly. Working overtime to demonize Disney, claiming the company is indoctrinating and sexualizing children through movies and TV shows. Shared a leaked video of Disney executives talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was deemed scandalous that some producers at Disney want to include more LGBTQ characters and storylines in shows.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but first of all, Disney has been sexualizing children. Anyone who grew up with Disney Channel, it's very apparent. I mean, it's messed up, but yeah, they've been doing that. Only difference is now it's going in a very weird place. It's getting weirder and weirder. And that's why I would argue, that's why people are so opposed to the parental rights and education bill in Florida. Because they won't be able to push it on kids, again, to validate their existence, to validate their personal life choices in regards to sexuality. I saw this one news story. I should have got the clip. I saw this one news story where this kindergarten teacher was like, if I can't talk about my sexuality with my students, I don't know what I'll do. Dude. What? And then he brought up an example. It was like, oh, like if I want to be able to tell my students that I went paddleboarding with my husband. You can say I went paddleboarding with my husband. If it gets to that place where the kid's like, oh, well, why does Mr. So-and-so have a husband and not a wife? I'm sure there's protocol for that. You call the kid's parent and say, look, hey, this is what happened, yada, yada, yada. But there's a difference. There is a difference. And get this, most kids, when I was a kid, I knew what gay people were. I did. And then people that are imposed to this bill, including some of these weird Disney employees, they're saying stuff like, oh, because my life was so traumatizing. I'm not trying to take away anyone's hurt or things they went through, but that's a person-by-person experience thing. You can't blanket term that for everybody, and that's you. That's you. And this bill has nothing to do with you being scrutinized or pushed out like the first person in that stream. They were like, oh, bills that are things that are put in place to demonize gay people. This kind of thing is bad press for the LGBTQ community, to be quite honest with you. this is bad press. The fact that you're pushing against it and the fact that you're saying out loud, I have an agenda. Why is there a queer agenda? For what? Again, so that you can have children validate your sexual identity. It's not cool. It is not cool. It is not cool. It is not cool. And I think that ultimately this will hurt Disney's pockets. This will hurt the money. This will hurt the revenue. They are going to regret this significantly. Mark my words. Me personally, am I going to boycott Disney? I'm not going to lie. I've thought about it. I don't know. There's a lot of things that Disney has made that I like. You know? I was already in the, like, those of you who are familiar with the channel, you know, like I just had a daughter. I'm already kind of twirling like the wheels on like, yo, a Disney World trip. But do I want to give money to a company like this? I'm not gonna lie. I honestly, personally, I don't know. I don't know how far they're willing to take it to where it would matter. Some people are like straight out like, oh no, I'm boycotting. I'm not buying anything Disney. I think that it's a little extreme to jump head first in right now. I mean, that's within everyone's right. Like, if you don't want to give Disney and stuff your money anymore, you know, that's between you and you or whatever. I don't know. Because I feel like they're still full of crap. So it's not like Disney, like, get this, the higher ups, like the real heads at Disney, I'm telling you right now, they're all conservative and they're all way right-leaning. They don't care. They care about them bills and they care about these bad headlines. However, I think that they're stupid in letting a bunch of college, like recently out of college activists, because let's keep it a bean, that's what this is. And like hippies in California run and influence them, telling like, this is what the people want. This is not what the people want. That's not what the people want. It really isn't. I'm telling you as a member of the people. I know people in the LGBTQ community who don't want this because it's hype and it's just ridiculous. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.